Welcome to Bricks and Banter, the podcast that brings you the latest insights and advice on all things real estate.
Welcome back to Bricks and Banter.
Today we have a bit of a different episode for you guys. Not quite as, we'll say, real estate heavy, but we do have Jordan DeRosa, who is the owner and operator of Rosa Construction, a very, very popular renovation business here in the Durham region. So Jordan, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me out.
Yeah, definitely. It's
Thanks, Jordan.
nice to switch it up, right? We've had all these realtors in lately, so it's always been either investments or it's been just literally only real estate is what we've been talking about.
Yeah, real estate's been one of those things, and I've gone through some renovations in my life, so we just thought it was appropriate to have you in. So fire off some good questions, provide some content for some people.
Absolutely.
So let's get to it.
Yeah, and especially right now, right? Like we were just talking before we started, like with the interest rates being so high, there's a lot of maybe different behavior, we can call it, between homeowners that might be thinking about selling, but then they change their mind and they end up renovating, doing maybe an addition or something like that, right? So we have a lot to get into today. I think one of the big keys that we brought Jordan on today is because not only is he obviously a hugely successful contractor, but he has a really interesting story. So without me kind of telling everything, I want to kind of just lead you through it, and I want to kind of hear a little bit about how you kind of got to where you are today, really. So Scott doesn't know everything. I know a few of it. So, many years ago you were working in the elevator business, right? You were a full-time elevator mechanic from my understanding.
Yes, I was.
So for me, I'm just curious, like that's such a good job, such a high paying trade, pretty sought after, I think, for a lot of people. So, what kind of led you to make the decision to get out of that business to kind of start thinking about working for yourself?
So that's always the thing I get questioned on as well is, it's a high paying job and you make good money and, why would you do it and why would you leave? But at the end of the day, you gotta come home happy. You have to be happy at work. And I just wasn't any of that.
Yeah. So it wasn't just about the money. It was more so like you got to a point where you were just kind of miserable in it then.
Yeah. I mean, when you don't want to wake up to go to work because you just don't want to be there and you don't want to sit in a hoistway. And it was just, I was losing the love for it.
Yeah. So how many years were you in that overall?
I was 8 years. So I was 4 years licensed.
And you were pretty young when you started, weren't you?
Yeah. I got in at 21.
It's crazy.
So I was lucky to get in young.
Yeah. And before that, so let's just step back quickly here. For anybody who's listening that doesn't know, Jordan is my brother-in-law, a really good guy. We've got some good stories we can share. But before he was in the elevator business, we actually worked at McDonald's together.
Absolutely.
We used to run the show.
Here we go.
Flipping burgers.
Flipping burgers, throwing pickles at each other, like just having the time. But it's interesting because I think McDonald's is a good touch point because it's one of those jobs that a lot of young people do. A lot of people in general do.
Don't forget about the nuggets in the freezer.
Well, like I'm trying to think how else we're supposed to eat them. Right? Like you got to get them when they're hot. You take them to the freezer. You have a couple snacks, right? Like
absolutely.
Oh my God, seriously?
Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do, right?
It's one of the places I never worked.
Yeah,
I never worked at McDonald's. A lot of my friends did.
It was probably the best job I had as
Really?
a kid growing up through school. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel the same way because it's one of those jobs that you kind of are forced to take responsibility, right? Like everybody has a position, like whether you're in the front or you're in the kitchen, everybody has a role to play, and it's kind of like.
Okay, so I have a question for you then, because when I went to high school, and I'm going to go play the old card here, was that when certain people were at the counter, you guys had codes to call out for something, like if there was. We'll say like an absolute smoke show girl who was to stand at the counter. Does you guys have codes that you would call out?
Yeah.
Like,
we figured it out.
Yeah,
for sure.
We had all sorts of ways.
Yeah,
but it was funny too. So obviously we don't want to go too far into this, but Jordan and I, both of us worked like every position at McDonald's. So we could both work like in the front. We could both be flipping the burgers on the grill, making the sandwiches. So we kind of had the run of the place. So it was funny because Jordan and I have a pretty similar work ethic, or at least maybe back then we did. But basically him and I would just show up and we'd say, who wants to go home? Like, does anybody not want to be here? Like, because we're going to work, right? Yeah. So we'd be constantly trying to get, the hours to go over the allotted amount you're allowed. And then we'd be paying time and a half, right? So
they call us in because, they didn't want to pay us time and a half.
Yeah. But we're like, hey, nobody else wants to work. What are we supposed to do, right? Like, we got to work smarter, right?
We did it all the time.
That was great. So anyway, so shifting back to kind of the elevator business and kind of, shifting on. So I know that you started, so back when you were in the elevators, did you have any business on your own? Like, were you doing like building decks and fences at that point, or were you just?
I started with decks and fences. On the side. So I mean, I'd work my 8 hours a day, then I'd come home and work till dark. Building decks and fences or doing whatever I could. that way.
So was that like, I know you were doing that for a little while, and then there, like to me it kind of felt like there was a point where it was like decks and fences, and then it was like basements, bathrooms, kitchens. Like, you know what I mean? It feels like there was a point where you flipped. So was that a thing that you consciously made that decision, where you were just kind of thinking, this isn't what I want to do? I want to do more? Or?
Yeah. Well, I knew eventually that I would be doing this full time.
Yeah.
And I knew eventually that I didn't want to have to take the winters off.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing decks and fences, I mean, obviously you're not doing that in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed the inside stuff more. So we got, brought in a couple basements. We got a couple bathrooms.
Yeah.
And so I just excelled in that and kind of stopped advertising for the outside stuff.
Yeah.
So now it's nice because we don't have a slow time.
Yeah.
Right. We don't have we're on off time, or we have to plow snow or anything like that because we're just busy constantly.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So how far out are you booked usually? Like right now, if I wanted to hire you, soon, are you booked out for a couple months? Or are you kind of flexible right now?
Well, that's the thing. I don't like to be booked out too far. We're about 6 months now.
Damn. Okay.
We were about 8. So we're trying to get to 4.
Yeah. Kind of keep it in and around.
The problem is hiring people.
Yeah.
You want to find the best guys because you want to bring good people into people's homes. The problem is when you're doing these rentals, you're in their personal space.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be careful who you're hiring. I mean, obviously they're all insured through me, but you just want to make sure. And obviously the quality of work, that's another massive part of the problem too, right?
That's something that's actually come up when having gone through my renovations and doing stuff when we moved up in Port Perry. Every contractor I spoke to, or every subcontractor I spoke to, said, the work's not difficult. The business isn't difficult. The most difficult part is staffing employees.
Absolutely.
Like getting the people, like that is the biggest challenge from everybody, bar none.
Yeah. It's the same thing we do every single day, right?
Yeah.
We work with the same people. We do the same jobs just because they're different. I mean, every job is different, but if we're doing a bathroom's a bathroom. It's just different processes for different projects, right?
Yeah.
But it's finding the guys that you can trust to leave on site.
Yeah.
Because we're at the point now where I'm running around finding jobs and we have crews on site doing the work.
Yeah.
So you have to have that trust relationship because you don't want to come back and go, what are you doing?
Yeah. Or find someone that's, something's, I guess the worst case scenario is something gone missing from someone's home, or, just the maybe the lack of trust that maybe a homeowner has with someone else being in their home.
And I mean, so be it, right? It's it's scary having someone in your home, let alone they've met me and they've signed with me and they like me. But now the biggest complaint I get is, why aren't you on site? And my thing is, well, if I'm on site, then I can't get more work. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And you can't be at every site all the time, right? Like,
we're running 4 jobs at a time.
Yeah.
Right.
Your crews are that big?
Yeah. So we do a lot of sub.
Okay.
Sub's just a little bit better for us.
Yeah.
It's better trusting. We're bringing in professionals.
Yeah.
So our drywallers do drywall every single day.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of companies that are smaller. I mean, that's how we started too, but we would do it all ourselves. And then you just get to a point where you're so busy that you don't have the time to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a better result when you bring someone in.
Yeah.
So when the flooring guy does your floor, it's warranted, it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
The quality of the product is much better.
Yeah.
And it's just a better finish. And then the homeowners are always happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So explain to me then, because that's something that within the industry, I think people don't understand. And I didn't understand it initially as well. Like when you say a sub, what does that exactly mean? Because I think there's a lot of people that don't get it. There's a lot of people that don't understand.
So a sub is it's just another business that we bring in. Okay. So we have our drywaller business, we have our plumber business, our electrical, all these guys, the flooring companies, the staircases. Yeah. So they're just other businesses that we have made relationships with and have worked with for years that we just bring in to help us excel. Okay. So our staircase guy does staircases every single day. Yeah. So when we bring him in, we're guaranteed a nice finish. Okay. So
you physically are not going to install a staircase, and maybe your crew isn't going to, but you've got that guy, that subcontractor who that's all he does. Staircases or railings or sanding and staining, and they're perfect. They're great at it. They're in and out in a day or a day and a half or 2 days or whatever that is.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. I feel like that'd be much more efficient too, right? Like,
it's a lot more efficient. And then I can have more things going on at once, right?
Yeah.
I can have the cabinets going in. I can have the staircase guy doing his thing. They're on opposite sides of the house.
Yeah.
And then, we might be finishing the bathroom as well.
Yeah. And I think that's where people need to understand, like as a layperson who doesn't do this every day, like when I'm quoting out a job or I'm understanding this or what's going on, it's easier for me to say, okay, well then you're going to be done way faster than if you're doing everything yourself.
Exactly.
Which means it's going to save money in the long run.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more efficient, and it's going to be better quality maybe, because these guys are good at it. And it's not like, I've worked with subs before and it's like, oh, I'll dig the trench or something like that. And they're like, or I'll do this. And they're like, no, just let us come in and do the job, finish it, do it right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's as simple as windows.
Yeah.
Right. Like you want to go in there and do that window yourself.
Yeah.
But then how do you finish the window? No one ever thinks of that part.
Yeah.
Like the trim and everything.
Yeah. Now you're like, well, how do I bend this tin? I don't have anything. So I'll go to Home Depot and buy some fascia, and it just looks terrible.
Yeah.
Right. But you get these guys in, they're done in a quarter of the time that it would have taken you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all finished, flashed, and nice.
Yeah, and they probably have the extra supplies in
Done.
the trailer if they need it. Like,
and then that's the reason why it's, $800 more than this guy down the road.
Yeah.
Because it's in, it's done, it's right, it's sealed. Everyone's happy.
And you're not going to have a problem with it going forward.
Absolutely.
Okay. No, that's good to know.
Yeah, no, there's some really good points there. And I think a lot of that, there's a lot of like parallels there, right, with our business as well, because we're constantly, we have so many network providers that we deal with, right? Even people like yourself, obviously. But, it's just like if we try to do all these things ourselves, like some realtors stage their own homes, they clean their own homes, they do all these things. And it's like, it comes back to time usually, right? Like you said, when you're coming in, right? Like, like sounds to me like as you've grown, like you've obviously, everybody wants to make money. Money's important in today's day and age, obviously, but it sounds to me like you've basically been like, time is more important to me. And I would rather maybe have to take a hit on some of the jobs because I'm paying these guys more, but it's freeing you up, right? And it's allowing you to acquire more business, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. So,
absolutely.
Okay. So let's move on. So talking about, starting your own business and everything, like, have you always had an entrepreneurial kind of mindset growing up? Like, were you always kind of thinking like, about selling things or doing things for yourself? Like, was that always something that you kind of felt within, or did you kind of feel that you maybe developed that as you were, slowly getting miserable in the elevator business?
Yeah, no, that was always in the blood. So it actually, when I grew up, I didn't have the richest family. So I mean, it was kind of like, you want that, you got to buy it. Yeah. Well, I was 12. How do I buy things? All right. Well, I have to work. Yeah. So I started cutting the neighbors' lawns, $10. Mm-hmm. Back then, that was a lot of money.
Yeah, back in the day.
Right? Yeah. So you cut 10 lawns, you're like, I got $100. This is cool. Right? What can I buy? Whatever candy I want. And then it got to the point where, my old man and I, we made a trailer out of an old contractor's truck cap that he found in the scrap pile at work. Yeah. And we made a trailer for the back of my bicycle. So it held the lawnmower, the weed eater, and a tank of fuel. And I would pedal my bicycle. And we lived at the top of Talnine and Bloor. So it's the top of the biggest hill in Oshawa. Yeah. So that was great because all the lawns were at the bottom.
Yeah. Coming home was a bit of a pain. I'm assuming.
Yeah. So I had to get a 10-speed bike so I could make sure I could pedal 300 times to move 3 feet. Yeah. But it made the load a little bit lighter, right?
Keeping it first gear.
So I was about 12, but I started cutting lawns and shoveling snow.
Yeah.
So I had a lot more shoveling in the wintertime to do, obviously, but it paid off, I think, in the end, right?
I think we've all done that. Well, maybe not all of us, but I definitely shoveled driveways.
I can tell you kids now aren't doing it.
Oh, my kids don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like kids don't even want to do chores at their houses. Like I used to get a $5 allowance and I would clean all the bathrooms. I'd put it in like a coffee tin. And then 2 years later, I'd go up to my dad and I'd say, "Hey Dad, can I cash in?" And he'd go, "You've got like $500 bills here. Like, what do you expect me to do?" Right. I don't just have this money for you. Right. Yeah. But it's funny because I think that, I felt I always had that growing up. And I feel like for me, I didn't necessarily, maybe it took me to kind of go through my soccer injuries and stuff to kind of realize that was what I wanted to do. So I just kind of wanted to hear from you if it was maybe something that you grew into a little bit, because not everybody thinks like that, right? That's a big thing that I think sometimes if you are entrepreneurial in your mindset, you kind of forget that not everybody has that same drive or that ambition or the thought process that we go through, right?
I think the biggest thing is I've never really liked being told what to do.
Yeah.
As a kid, hated it.
Yeah.
I mean, I take it from my wife. But, if you're working for somebody and you're doing a good job, but still being told you're not doing a good job, that's kind of what got to me, right? Yeah. That's why McDonald's was probably the best job I've had, is because we didn't really get told. We just knew what we had to do. Yeah. It was almost like you were working on a line in a factory, but you were just producing McDonald's meals. Yeah. Right. So you just knew what you had to do. So you didn't have to be told. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
and there wasn't any
pickles on.
There wasn't any variation to it. It was like, speed was the key there.
So that was the only job I liked, and that's why I walked in with a uniform and said, "Who wants to go home?" And we just took the shift from there. Yeah. But other than that, I didn't like to be told what to do, so I always knew that.
Yeah.
So I knew that I was going to land in this line of work, and I knew I was going to do it full time. I just didn't know when.
Yeah.
So it came down to the point I got a little fed up.
Yeah.
I didn't tell my wife. I just quit.
Ooh. Wow.
That was it.
Imagine doing that, eh?
Cold turkey.
Nope. I wouldn't do that. That would
cold turkey. Called her on the way home. Said, "Guess what? You'll never believe it."
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I said I quit.
So you had no preamble up to that beforehand?
Nothing.
Like this wasn't a discussed on Monday, Tuesday, and I quit on Friday.
No.
I hate my job, went in Friday, quit.
I've had enough. Yeah.
You quit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cold
So what was
turkey.
that? So what was that like for you then? Because I know what it was like for me. But I want to hear, like, what was it like for you to say, I'm done, finished, I'm moving on?
Well, I felt like on the way home, I lost 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Of stress weight.
Yeah.
You know, like I wasn't holding on to that.
Mm-hmm.
The weight kind of comes back on when my wife's worried about it, right?
Yeah.
How are we going to take care of the family? How are we going to pay the bills? And don't worry about it. I'm going to make sure it happens. And immediately I just put the business in overdrive.
Yeah.
And that's when I was able to, it's almost like a little birdie flew around and told everyone that, you know, we were now operating at full-time hours, right? Because then all the calls started coming in.
Yeah.
And you just get on the socials, put out your stuff and take some videos and pictures. And now everything's escalated, right? So now we're doing full video. We're doing full media.
Yeah.
We have media crews come out. You know, we're talking to the big dogs now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing I want to kind of just open up on here is like, you know, we talk about it sometimes on the podcast, you know, every day, whatever, but just like content creation in general, right? Like the world that we're in today, you know, like if you do have a business, you kind of have to be doing it in some capacity, right?
My business has tripled from social media.
Well, and see, that's one thing I want to say is like for you, like I think there's been like for anybody who's been following you, I guess, or anybody who knows you, I think it's pretty clear to see there's been a very like relentless pursuit by yourself to just, you know, video after video after video, and you were improving each time you did it. Like I noticed that myself, because just like myself, when I watch my videos or I watch Scott's, like I'm making fun of Scott, you know, he's got his hand in his pocket. My videos are terrible. Sometimes mine, you know, like it's just like we all kind of have to go through this bit of progression, right? But I was just really like impressed by it, and you know, I just think it's awesome that you just were like, this is what I want to do. Like I remember he was saying to me, like I want to be on HGTV. Like that's what he wants to do. Like that's a goal, and you know what I mean, like.
So have you made it yet? Are you on HGTV yet?
We're close.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
he's got some.
That's cool.
But the thing now is, you know, no one goes home and watches TV anymore.
No.
Right? Everyone goes home, sits on the couch and pulls their phone out.
Yeah.
So we get more feedback on the socials that way.
Yeah.
Right? We post a video 3 times a week. Yeah. It just kind of keeps everyone up. The other thing it gets rid of too is, you know, can I have some references?
Yeah, because you don't.
I'll get them out all the time. No problem. Everybody will reference for us that we work for. I'll just give out their names and numbers. But no one does that anymore because you don't have to.
No.
Yeah.
You know, you just go on our socials, click OK, you know, 231 Edward Street, bang, click it, and then there's all the videos there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point too.
Yeah. No, his stuff
so you can
awesome.
see it. You're not only just getting this guy's great because you don't know if it's her cousin Jimmy, you know, that they're giving a number to.
Yeah, I've always had a big issue with reviews on anything we've ever done, whether it's travel, whether it's, you know, contracting and stuff like that. There's a certain point of the reviews where I'm like, is this just a disgruntled person who doesn't like anybody?
Well, do people that love
reviews?
Do people that love the service give reviews?
Yeah.
Not unless you ask them to.
Yeah, you have
right?
to.
Yeah.
If you order something on Amazon and it's smashed and garbage, you're going to go on and be like, because you're angry.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, this product sucks.
Yeah.
But if you get that product and it's great, you forgot about it already because you got it, and
you're
not going back on Amazon to write a review.
Yeah.
So that's usually why people have bad reviews.
Yeah.
Actually, our only bad review, I've never talked to or met the guy in my life. I don't even know who it is.
Yeah.
That's probably something about like your truck or something, right?
He said I was rude and hung up the phone on him, but no idea who he is.
Really?
Yeah, it's a fake account, so
sucks
I don't know.
To be him then. Eh?
Yeah. I was really kind of hoping that nobody watches TV anymore. People just listen to podcasts, so we'll be really successful.
Exactly, that's
in 3 years.
That's the new thing now.
Honestly, it's a good point. Like the way that you said that there, like just people, like if you have like good quality, like even if it's a minute or 2 minutes, right? Like it's the consistency, right? Like every time that they get home and they sit down on the couch or they're in the bathroom or whatever they're doing, like if they're seeing your videos, like it's almost like you're constantly in their mind, right?
Exactly.
It's one thing we talk about a lot in real estate is like, you know, well, first of all, I'll say, because before I forget, it was asking for reviews is a big one. Because if we don't ask for them, like sometimes you won't get them, even if people are happy, right?
Same with us.
Yeah, big time. But I find too, like, do you ever find that if you don't ask really quickly, like if you don't ask, you know, maybe right when the job is done, sometimes it can take time to get them, or will you just keep asking type thing?
Yeah, we usually ask when the job's done.
Because I feel like you got to strike when the iron's hot.
Usually, and you usually have to ask again and again.
Yeah.
I mean, why would they write a review if they're happy with the work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they don't understand that we rely on that review.
Yeah.
To kind of wean out the bad ones if you have any.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you want to keep referenced and keep at the top of the list with every job so they can see, okay, this person from this address, they just finished, they wrote a review, they're happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I find too, it depends on sometimes business specific for reviews. Like I would never go out and review a restaurant. And I think we talked about this last time, right? I won't review a restaurant because if I don't like it, I'm just not going to go back. Right. And I'm not going to make a big deal about it. And I'm not going to, maybe it was a type of food I didn't like, or maybe it was something that I didn't understand going into it right from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So when you're right, when you get something that's good, you're living through that kitchen. Now I have this kitchen. Now I'm sitting, have a coffee every morning. I'm enjoying this. Yeah, I would forget to write that good review, right? But I guess I have a little bit of a different perspective on reviews because
that's because you rely on them also.
Yeah, right. But I'm also that they're telling everybody, right? If you've done work for me, and someone asks me, I'm going, you got to call Jordan.
Yeah,
got to call Jordan. Got to call Jordan.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone, call him because he does amazing work. He's done my kitchen. He's done my, backyard. He's done the whatever it is that he's done, and it's always been good work. And that's for anybody that I work with. I find is that I'll get out there and I won't write that review, but I will tell everybody I know about you.
And that's the word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why we become so successful is because of the good work. But if you go on and look for reviews, it's just you don't have all that online for people to see.
Yeah.
But I find a lot of people don't really look for it anymore. Right. So that's kind of dying out as well.
Yeah, I think it's like depending on who you are, I guess. Like I think a certain percentage still is like really obsessive with it, but others are just kind of like, I follow them on Instagram.
Yeah. How many 5-star reviews can you possibly get before it's just kind of like, eh?
Yeah.
I've got 300 5-star reviews. Well, first of all, I'm not sitting down and reading all 300 reviews. So sorry.
And that's where social's good.
Yeah.
Right. Do people want to see the reviews and read the reviews?
Yeah.
Or do they want to just go on your socials and look at what you've done?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, wow, that's great. Or I don't like that bathroom, or the glass is this, or whatever. But that's why every job is custom. I could do 1,000 bathrooms and not any two of them are the same.
Yeah.
Right. We could put in 100 kitchens and they're not the same ever. But that's why we have the people on our team that we have so that we can make sure every job goes in seamlessly.
Yeah. No, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So going back to just working for yourself, right? Mindset of that. I'm curious about like the greatest challenge that you may have faced, like maybe now or maybe getting into it. Like, has there ever been anything that was just like a real like tough thing you had to overcome, or has it always been kind of just you're just going forward and
Well, you said it. It's mindset.
Okay, so just
every single day.
Yeah, like just fighting yourself, basically.
Well, a lot of people, so depression is what's happened in the past, and anxiety is what you plan to happen in the future. If you just focus on the day-to-day tasks, they will get done.
Yeah.
But it's when you think, okay, when I did this last time, this happened, or if I do this, what's going to happen here? You just have to worry about what's now, and that's the biggest struggle with I think every single business owner. Is you're always worrying about something. But if you take all the worry out and just worry about today, tomorrow will come.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a really good point.
A great point. Yeah.
That's a good point. I've never even really thought about that because as soon as you said it, I was like, I could see a little portion of my own personal life flash through. I was
honestly,
like,
same as
depression, anxiety. Yep.
Yeah.
Check and check.
Yeah. And like those are really real things though too, right? Like we have to remember like the real estate market, these last couple of years has been very like up and down for everybody, right? And it's like when you work for yourself, you like just going back to before how people don't always think like we do. Like when you work for yourself, you have that, like you come from a different perspective, right? Like there are maybe the same fears that people feel, but just in more of a serious nature. You know what I mean? Like if you have your job and you're going to your 9 to 5, like you're always going to have things that you're worried about upcoming and everything, right? But
then at the end of the day, do you care?
Well, exactly. But if you have that job, your paycheck is going to be there, right?
Exactly. You punch the clock and you're out.
Exactly. Yeah. So like the caring and all that is much different than for us because it's all on us, right? Like we all know what it's like. Like if Scott doesn't get up and come to the office and do his work, he's not getting paid. And just like all of us, like maybe for you with your crews, you can sit at home once in a while, but I don't think you do that.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like seeing, like honestly, I've probably seen him sitting on a couch like maybe 5 times, 10 times,
Well, even standing in the doorway, coming in and getting ready and everything else, he's got instructions going out to it was your wife, right?
Yeah.
So you've got the instructions. Okay, this needs to be done. That needs to be done. That needs to be done. It's like this time that you're spending with us, we really appreciate it. But it's kind of like, does it give you anxiety sitting here?
No, this is great. Because the phone's off. I don't have to worry about it. If you call me, I'll know about it later.
Yeah.
It's like emotional relaxation.
You've got like a really kind of a unique. I don't know you very well, but you've got a unique intensity. Right. And I think that intensity comes across and like, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to work. This is going to happen. I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like there's a lot of question or doubt.
Yeah. Well, all that along with knowledge is what makes it, right?
Yeah.
So the more knowledge you have, if you know, there's a lot of people that can tell you a lot of things, but they don't actually know what they're talking about.
Right.
We see it all the time.
Like we're at the point now where, it just happened actually last week on a job where I had to call out the engineer because what he's designed was wrong.
Yeah.
Did that go well? No, because I'm not as smart as an engineer.
Yeah.
But I build it.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm putting this in, thinking back, this is not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bear this whole house on a couple pieces of wood.
Yeah.
That's not okay. The beam itself was 1,600 pounds. So to be placed on a couple pieces of terrible lumber that we have now was not sufficient.
Yeah.
So why not bear that down, steel post right down to the footing?
Yeah.
Right. So we had to make some adjustments and bring in further engineers because the first one didn't like my questions on it.
Okay.
Right? So it's I think it's based down to the knowledge. So when you can explain this stuff to homeowners, and that brings me to another point. That's another thing with extra charges.
Yeah.
Is if you're going to charge a client extra, obviously it's for a reason because you found something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to back up your charge.
Right.
Whereas a lot of people, that's going to be an extra $3,000. Well, why? Well, because it's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is why.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why our quotes have a paragraph with them.
Yeah.
Right. Because you can see exactly what you're getting. So if you're getting a job done that's $200,000, you can see every single penny where it's going with every single definition, and it's 6 pages on an estimate.
Yeah.
Right. So that makes you feel a little bit better spending $200,000 when you have 6 pages of documentation, rather than the guy that gives you $200,000 and it's on a single page, couple lines.
Yeah, and he's just like, sign here and pay me.
Yeah.
HST is this much. The total is this much. You pay it. And,
what am I getting?
Yeah.
Right. So we have
understand what
designers. We have renderings. We can show you that. Essentially, you can see it's HGTV stuff. Like you can see what you're getting before you get it.
Yeah.
And I've never not changed the design.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like about it.
That's cool.
Because everybody wants this, and this, and I want that accent wall here, and I want this wall blue and this wall pink. And I'm like, okay. So we throw it in the design. They're like, I hate that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the good thing about the design.
Yeah.
I've done a basement actually. They're like, oh, I love this color. It's orange. It'll look really cool down here.
Yeah.
Well, when we painted it, it was the ugliest color I've ever seen, but I didn't say anything. Right.
Yeah.
And then he calls and says, hey man, I don't want to be that guy, but we have to repaint the basement. It is the ugliest color I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But you provided the paint sample.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. So if we would have had designs in those years, we would have been able to accomplish that issue before we even got there.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because we went through that when we just did our renovations, hired painters to come in and did it. The designer picked the color and everything else. And it was, what was the color? I'm going to say it's incredible white. And my wife and I were so excited to get home because the whole upstairs was going to be repainted, nice and fresh. Took away that 1987 color scheme in the house and walked in and we're like, what is going on? It was like, it's not incredible and it's not white.
That always makes you feel good, eh?
Oh my gosh.
Was it like a blue or something? Like
no, it came out like this lavender pink. And
that's from lighting too. A lot of people don't know that, right?
Yeah, and we did, and we tried everything. I brought out halogen bulbs. I put on spotlights. We took out everything. We waited for the sun to rise the next day, and it was like, nope, still not incredible.
No
still
good.
Not actually, Ethan, my son's room turned into, I think it was kind of like a lavendery pink color, and we could not get rid of that shade. Didn't matter how much light we brought into it. So we just said, yeah, you know what? I guess we have to eat this one because that's what happened.
You picked it, right?
We picked it. So it's kind of hard to say, it's maybe a little bit off with the designer and everything else, but how do you know?
Yeah.
Right? Like you see it in a can, you see it. Like,
you should have painted a swatch.
You should have.
Right. That's what we'll do. If the customer's not sure about the color, I'll go in and paint a 3x3 square on the wall.
Yeah.
And leave it there for a week.
Yeah.
And every time we do it, they hate the color they chose.
Yeah.
So it's better I paint a 3x3 square than their whole house and have the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No.
So I'm just curious because like getting into, obviously we've talked on the podcast extensively about your own renovations, but just when Jordan was talking about his quotes there, like the way he goes into such detail, like is that kind of comparable to what you went through, or was yours a bit more broad?
It was a bit more of I tried to be the general contractor. So I had all.
How'd that work out for you?
Not well. Not well.
I've never heard it work out well.
No, it has, and it's still not working out well for me because I'm still in it. But it's people that we've known, who we've worked with, like on an individual basis. So we know the plumber really well, know the electrician really well, know the kitchen guy really well. So everybody kind of gets along pretty well, and it works for the most part. And most of it's detailed. But if you try and bring in someone who's not familiar with the crew, and they're like, well, I'm not doing this, and or it's $5,000 and it's cash. Okay, well, what am I getting?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I need this drywall, I need that drywall. So your word of mouth conversation standing in your torn apart living room is not the time to be putting the plan together to have someone come back and drywall it.
That's the problem.
He looks in and goes, yeah, I could do all of this in the crown, paint it, everything, $5,000. And I'm like,
What are you going to say? No?
Kind of in a pickle now, because I got 3 other contractors. I said 3 and I held up 2 fingers. Had 3 other contractors waiting to come in, but they can't do anything until the drywall's done.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm over a barrel.
Yeah, you have no choice.
I have no choice. Now, having said that, I mean, he's a good drywaller and everything was done. Everything worked out well. And he did paint and he did everything else, but not the way you should be doing it.
No.
Not the way.
There's steps and processes to make a renovation run smooth.
Yeah.
And usually it's best to get everything in the wall before the drywall's on.
Yeah.
Right.
I've kind of learned that the hard way a little bit.
I'm at the point now where even though these are professionals that we're hiring, I'm still on site checking.
Yeah.
Because things happen, right? The people, they're not just sitting at home waiting for my phone calls.
Yeah.
They're here, there, and then they come to site and they're going to do some last minute stuff before drywall happens. Like, for example, yesterday I caught some electrical stuff that was missed.
Yeah.
And it was just because we sent out a revision plan, but when he was on site and opened it, he accidentally clicked the original plan. So it didn't show the extra set of low voltage cables heading over.
Oh, okay.
Not a huge deal. He admitted to the mistake and we just fixed it.
Yeah.
Done. That's how it works. But it was a good thing that I caught it.
Yeah.
Because it would have really sucked to try to run those wires when the kitchen cabinets are up and we're going, where are the lights going in there? So that's what's good. That's kind of my job now. I'd take that over to double check.
Yeah.
Not because I don't trust them, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Someone's hiring you and paying you for your expertise, and
Absolutely.
that is your expertise.
Yeah.
Right. You're
And
coming
what I'm going to
back.
say when it's done, where's my puck lights? I don't know. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to be on the ball with this stuff.
No, that's a good point.
So, I feel like I want to go into more of your kind of quote and your processes. Really, like, is there? I'm trying to think if we can kind of get through your process in a straightforward way. Like, how does it work? If somebody calls you today, they want you to come over and quote. Like, how quickly are you quoting it? Obviously, you've already said it's going to be like 6 months out from this point, but like, is it kind of always the same process for you, or do you find that it's very different depending on the job?
Well, I've changed process a lot over the years. So running this business now 10 years, I used to go off of, it's $3,000.
Yeah.
Then I was like, well, then it was a he said, she said. So then I went to email, it's $3,000.
Yeah.
And then it was, well, what's $3,000? So then I just thought about, put myself in their shoes. What do you want to see? If I'm hiring somebody, what do I want to see?
Yeah.
I don't want to say, okay, to paint this is $5,000. Well, what are you painting?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to know every wall, north wall, south wall,
Yeah.
east wall, leaving the west wall.
Yeah.
Right. I want to know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
So I kind of put myself in their shoes. So now I'm super detailed. Now we have a program that runs everything for us. It'll store kind of,
Awesome.
spots and blurbs everywhere. And I just detail everything. And I get told all the time I'm over detailed, but I'd rather be told I'm over detailed than under detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So having these quotes, if you're going to get electrical in your kitchen, then everything is based off your designs.
Mm-hmm.
So what I used to do before was give out quotes. I don't give out quotes anymore. I give out estimates.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge difference in those two words.
Okay, so what's the difference then
Well,
for someone who may not know?
An estimate is, I don't know what's behind your wall. I don't know how many electrical plugs you want. I don't know what cabinets you want. I don't know what color cabinets you want. I don't know what floor you want, because there's different grades of all this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have an average price, because we've done this 100 times,
Mhm.
as to what things cost, right? So I'll run through a job. Okay, you want a kitchen, it's roughly 12 feet long by 6 feet. So I know that's roughly $45,000.
Yeah.
Right. I can just know this stuff because we've done it so many times.
Mhm.
Flooring, you have 1,500 square feet. I'll multiply that by the square footage number of, the builder grade floor. It's going to be this much. So I'm able to implement all these into quote.
Mhm.
And then I just convert the numbers to estimate numbers to provide the client, because we want to have an estimated project total.
Yeah.
Because now I've made it permanent that we need our designer on site. If I'm doing a bathroom, I want to know exactly what tiles, what size grout lines.
Yeah.
Are we doing custom glass? Are we not doing custom glass? where are we putting tiles? Is it just the shower? Is it continuing on the wall? Is it on top of the tub? Where is it?
Mm-hmm.
So having that design, that's when I can offer you that quote.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So the estimate's an estimate. If I'm going to basically build this bathroom or this kitchen or your main floor, this is what it will be around.
Mm-hmm.
When you make the design, then you upsell yourself. Because I'm not an upseller. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
You should do this. You should do this. You should do this.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to show you what you want on the design. And then it's always like, oh, how would we put an upgraded trim in here? Or how about, we upgrade these floors?
Yeah.
Or I'll send our flooring contractor to the site and he'll display his samples as well.
Yeah.
Right. This is kind of our lower end. This is our higher end. And every single time, let's go with this one, which is the higher end floor. Yeah. But I didn't make the choice. They did.
Yeah.
Right. So when the bill goes up 20 grand, it's never a holy moly, look at this price. Like, what do I do? Because they know, because they've chosen the best of everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier that way.
Yeah. Sorry. And I feel like for you too, you probably have less people coming back at you, right? And less people having issue, right? Because as you just said, like they make these decisions themselves, right?
Absolutely.
And like, I think one issue probably from, my own experience probably, but just with contractors in general, is that's probably where they kind of get themselves in trouble a lot of the time, right? Is they're giving this quote and then suddenly they find something behind the wall and then they come back to the homeowner who's only done this job because they've budgeted for that specific amount of money, right?
Yeah.
So to me, it just sounds like you as you said, like mindset changing, like your process has changed. Like you kind of very quickly were like, look, like that's not going to happen anymore. Let's just tell them everything they need to know. And that's it. Like as simple as that, right?
I'll only ever get stiffed once.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. That's the first and last time, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
But it's just like us too, right? Like, in real estate, whenever someone's hiring us to sell, to list their property or, to help them buy a property, like we have to also be able to show, why we are commanding the fee we're commanding, right? And, it's both of our businesses are very, very competitive, right? So I'm sure that, you probably stand out, like not only because your social media and your videos and everything, but I think like your process from just hearing it now, like, and I didn't even know the depths of it, but I just feel like you probably stand out just like we would, or other realtors would when they're being put up against each other. Right.
Absolutely.
So if somebody brings people in, like, I know, like, I don't even have to think twice about it. Like if I had 2 or 3 contractors come in and, you gave me that much detail and the other ones didn't, like, it's just a no-brainer for me. I would be like, man, just like Scott said, like you're very sure of yourself. You're very confident in how you deliver things. And I think that those things make such a big difference, right? Like if you can back it up, like it's amazing.
Confidence is huge in industry or business. Right?
Yeah.
Because that confidence, what you're doing is what I find, and tell me if I'm wrong, in your industry, is that you're taking your confidence and you're passing it on to someone who's not 100% sure about what they're doing. I don't know if I should open up the kitchen. I don't know if I should combine the rec room and the living room. I don't know if I should build a bigger bathroom. I don't know if I should. You're coming in going, yeah, this is all possible and I can do it. And this is how we're going to do it.
Well, anything's possible.
Yeah. Time and money fixes everything. That's
whatever you want.
That's my line I throw out there.
The same thing. Yeah.
Enough time will fix it. Enough money will fix anything.
Absolutely.
I'll have a mansion if I have enough time and money.
Yeah, definitely.
Currently don't have one right now.
More money.
Yeah, more money. I'm running out of the time.
The time's ticking there, buddy. That's awesome.
I better get my button here.
You're getting there. You're almost done your renovation. So if you had to hire Jordan, it would have been easier.
Yeah, it probably would have been done by now.
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually brings me to another point. Like, do you find pretty often that your timelines are pretty accurate, or like how does that usually go?
I'm going to go with yes, but I'm also going to say no.
Yeah, okay.
Because in 10
different
years,
all the time.
10 years running the company, I've never opened a wall and not found something.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's a really good point to say, though, because we've talked about that in Scott's episode about the renos. Is like, a lot of people try to do things themselves, and if you're trying to buy your first home and you're a young couple, and maybe you've got a little bit of know-how, right? Like you can bite off so much more than you can chew without really realizing it, right?
Yeah,
like it's pretty crazy sometimes how people get. But
I think the craziest one I had was we just did this job in Newcastle. We're just finishing up now.
Yeah, on my street, right?
On your street, yeah, the one on the corner there.
Yeah,
and I noticed in and out of the front door that the bricks on the corner were cracked.
Mm-hmm.
They were just they were shaling.
Yeah.
Which tells me water damage. So I talked to the homeowners about it. I said, did you know about this? It was kind of behind a bush. Yeah, we know. We had some construction on the street and they were using the tampers, and we noticed it started to fall apart after that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with them.
Yeah.
I knew they were wrong.
Yeah.
So I just suggested, are you sure you don't want to look into it? They're like, oh, well, we can take a look and check. And the next day they told me about, this front room where the front door is cold. What can we do about it? I said, well, we're putting cabinets here anyway, so we can either fix it now, or it's an issue when you have the cabinets in, you got to pull them all out if there's an issue later.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. I said, I'm not going to worry about charging you. It's a couple feet of wall. I'll pull down the drywall. I'll re-insulate it for you.
Mhm.
And then we'll just drywall it. That way we know it's going to be good and insulated, because it could be bad insulation. It could be just old insulation.
Yeah.
Maybe it's shrunk. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
So I pull out the drywall, and the whole corner of the house is rotten and falling,
Wow.
sinking. The sill plate, the rim joists, all the studs,
Everything.
they're all rotten.
Wow.
So that shaling was the east trough downspout that was plugged, running water in. They've been there 32 years. Who knows when it started? 30 years ago. So it's deteriorated all the bricks down the corner of the house and rotted the inside of the house.
Wow.
That's insane.
So, you're putting 80,000 or whatever, 60,000 in cabinets. And if you didn't, go with your gut, if I didn't go with my gut on that decision to let's just pull this down and check it, then we could have been left with a bigger disaster in the end.
Yeah.
When now 3 years down the road, when they're getting sick because of mold, and it was all black mold.
Yeah.
Wow.
If they're getting sick, now we have to pull it all out and then fix it.
Yeah.
Right. Then that's doubling the budget right there.
Yeah. I've always got money and time to fix it, but not do it right the first time.
Yeah. And then that goes back to the schedule point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was about 4 weeks
Yeah.
added to the schedule.
Yeah.
Right. Because now we're pulling bricks off the whole exterior of the house. It was a brick house, obviously not a vinyl. So vinyl's, quick and dirty. But bricks, then you have to match the bricks, and you have to put vents in and all that fun stuff. Now we're reframing the outside of the house, supporting the house, rebuilding walls, rim joists, sill plates, all that stuff, reattaching it to the foundation backwards, because the house is already built. So we can't just put the plate on and put the bolts on. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, things tend to fall down when you take out the foundation.
Yeah, so now we're supporting it and altering things to make it work.
Yeah.
So it takes time.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, though. That's pretty
a pretty
cool.
interesting one.
Yeah, because I don't think a lot of contractors would be that,
savvy, or
I guess savvy or knowledgeable, or just, that kind of that non-confrontational kind of, okay, well, we'll keep going. But if you notice that opportunity when and said, okay, let's look at this from a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's when you can find it. I guess it wasn't the tamper after all, was it?
No, it absolutely was not.
No.
And that's why I'm not about upselling, because I don't want to upsell. I just want to make every client happy.
Yeah.
Right. And if I know something tells me we need to pull this wall down, I don't care if they're paying for it or not.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to pull that wall down to make myself feel good. I could have pulled that wall down and went, oh, perfect. Everything's great. Let's re-insulate and drywall this. No problem.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of guys would, right? Like they might.
Yeah. No, there are.
Because I think
it's
the
not
thing
might,
too
there are.
is like you said, Scott, like the non-confrontational approach that you took. Like it's almost like you were just kind of saying, look, guys, like I have some concerns. Like I'm not trying to get 20 more grand out of you, but I just want to make you aware so that you can at least make an informed decision, right?
Yeah. And I kind of went with that one on their part as well, right?
Yeah.
Because they came to me and said, hey, we noticed in the wintertime this spot's a little cold.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my advantage to like, hey, I think we should check that corner. Yeah. Now that you're saying it's cold, I will do the work for free. Yeah. But I think we should take a look in there.
Yeah.
Because you can't see from the basement. The basement's unfinished, but you obviously can't see behind that wall from there, right?
It's amazing how destructive water can be. And it's something as simple as what you just said, eaves troughs.
Eaves trough. When we pulled the eaves troughs down, because we got them replaced, they were completely packed like concrete of leaves.
Wow.
Yeah.
But there's also a 60-foot maple that hangs over the house, which we also got trimmed now with the new eaves troughs to make sure that doesn't ever happen.
Yeah, so it's funny because, we will make commentary about things. Like we'll say to people, these are general maintenance things you should do around your house. Everybody goes, yeah, I know. Yeah. But when you hear the extent of the damage, as you've just described, what can happen from simply not cleaning out your eaves troughs.
I can guarantee you that these clients will never not clean out their eaves troughs.
Cleanest, you'll probably be able to eat out of those.
And they're going to be telling all their neighbors and their friends and their family.
Right.
Yeah.
Because of this.
So it's kind of almost a public service thing that you've done. You've saved everybody on that street.
Yeah.
And I've made a video about it for that reason.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
But why should you clean your eaves troughs? Well, this is why. And the house is fully ripped open.
Yeah.
Right.
Good
and I think that if you haven't already, you're probably going to get a really good review out of them and a lot of word of mouth because think about it, right? Like you've saved them like probably, I don't know how much, 5 times what that probably costed you right now. Because if that had kept going, like you said, not only could they have gotten sick and potentially very sick, like that house could have just continued to erode away. And like, it could have just been this massive thing that you kind of nipped it in the bud, right? Like you were like, look, let's just do it. Yeah. Right. It's awesome. Because
from a small little water leak.
Yeah. One little thing.
By the time we hit the bottom, it was 4 feet on either side.
4 feet.
That's insane.
So it's been leaking for years. right?
Wow.
It started seeping about 2 feet down from the gutters.
Yeah.
And then it was 4 feet down, triangular at the bottom, both ends.
Wow. Yeah. The old house we lived in was a mansard style roof. And I always suggest to people, if you're going to buy a mansard style roof, educate yourself before you do.
Yeah.
Because I spent a lot of money on that roof and none of it were on the shingles. It was from all the problems that came from having that style roof and not having like soffit vents, not being a conventional type of attic space, like not hundreds of dollars, like tens to $20,000 to $30,000, just simply because of I didn't initially understand the type of roof line it was.
The other problem is a lot of people have soffit vents.
Yeah.
But have you ever checked that they're actually softened vents?
I do because I know my old roof line, but I know a lot.
Just
of people
because they
don't.
have holes in the softened vents
Yeah.
doesn't mean your attic is actually being vented.
Yeah, actually, we did do that. We pulled it off of the cottage, and it's like solid
Plywood.
aluminum, a solid aluminum, and then you get the vented pieces up there. I don't know why I'm doing all these hand gestures, but you get the vented pieces there. And I know when we had birds in the eaves trough, I started pulling it all down. It was solid plywood with like maybe 2 or 3 holes drilled in it. I'm like, that can't be enough ventilation in an attic.
Yeah, we did a job in Ajax, actually. That brings me to a good point. It was a kind of a side split, I guess. So it was when we were doing their kitchen reno, it was just a kitchen. We were going in there, removing a little wall that was not load bearing and just replacing the cabinets. Everything was staying exactly where it was going.
Yeah.
So it was a nice, cheap job for them. And I removed the wall and I went to go to the corner to take a measurement, and I turned around and I was looking at the ceiling funny, and I'm like, it looks a bit weird. So I asked the foreman to get up there with a 6-foot level.
Yeah.
In the middle of the room, it was 2 inches out.
Oh.
It was sunk 2 inches. So that was every single roof truss was sunk. So I figured out it was because the roof was sweating for the last 58 years. It was an older home.
Really?
Every single soffit vent was solid 5/8 plywood.
So that
they were all soffited vents, but there was 5/8 plywood behind them.
Ooh.
So they had roof vents, but the problem is like a jerry can.
Yeah.
Ever tried to pour fuel out of it without loosening
venting
the back?
Yeah.
Right. You don't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. It sits there in clugs. So the soffit vents bring in the air, and then the roof vents expel the air.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the air coming in, what's coming out?
Yeah.
So it just sweated all those roof trusses and sunk the whole thing.
Really?
So then we're in there doing structural work now, 3/4 inch plywood, pushing it all back up, nailing and gluing everything. And so it turned out from a little kitchen, let's just to the whole main floor.
The whole main floor.
The whole main floor.
Was it a bungalow then, or like a one?
It was a side split.
Oh, side split.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
But it was attic space in the kitchen area.
Yeah. Yeah, because they have a different kind of. They usually have like 2 different attic access points. And, I mean, when was the last time you went in your attic?
When I bought my house, I poked my head in there and was like, nice.
Yeah.
Looks good.
I love it up here.
Yeah. And I mean, when we bought our house back in April, I poked my head up in there with the home inspector. That's probably the last time I will ever poke my head back up in there.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you know it's all good, right?
Well, I don't know. Like, does insulation move around? Like, do things move around and plug up the vents and stuff like that?
It compresses. It depends how the insulation is put in too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do they have baffles in there? I don't know. A lot of guys that come and spray insulation in, you don't see them carrying in baffles.
No.
Unless you ask for it. Right?
Yeah, that's true too.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So that's a lot of like really good points. So you're kind of more whole home type of thing too. Like you're not coming in and just looking at one component of a home or, one component of the business.
It's all based around the knowledge of knowing what's happening as you're there.
Yeah.
Right? Usually when I go into a home, I can sense more problems than what the clients.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, because you're very knowledgeable about the whole home envelope. Did your previous career prepare you for that? Like, did you come with all of that knowledge? Has it just been experience? Like,
No. It's just more repetition.
Yeah.
Right. If you paint a wall enough times, you're going to be a master painter soon enough. Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I run my business the way I do. And it's why I'm more of a general contractor than we are a kind of at-home team, right?
Yeah.
Because these guys do the floor every single day. So you can guarantee a wicked install. These guys do the drywall. These guys are electricians. These guys are plumbers. So having all that repetition and doing this stuff for so many years, I can now see the problem before I even get inside.
Yeah.
Obviously not behind the wall, but like that Ajax one we were just talking about, the wall was in the way. So that's why you never would have saw the ceiling sink. So when we removed the wall, it's when you could see the dip in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Right. So just knowing, having that eye,
Yeah.
like, would most catch that eye? Maybe not. Maybe they would.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you're a cabinet installer, you're not looking at a ceiling and you're not looking at trusses,
Right.
because everybody else has come in and done their thing. I'm only here to install cabinets.
Exactly.
That's all I'm doing.
Exactly.
Right. So someone like yourself is coming in, stepping in and going, something doesn't pass the sniff test and something doesn't look right.
Yeah.
So why is that? Why is it not passing that test?
Yeah.
So that's
you just got to dig in deep and figure it out, right?
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
I think it's interesting too, because like we all do the same things, right? Like we walk into houses, like we've said, like we are looking for things as well. But I think it's interesting because, you know, Scott and I have it from the real estate side, where we have some knowledge, but we don't have like the in-depth stuff that you have, right? So like, you know, we'll sometimes maybe sense something as well and we'll recommend it, but a lot of times homeowners are just kind of like, you know, no, it's fine. I've been here like 30 years, those people with the thing, right? So I think that if more realtors, you know, had a lot more of this knowledge, like it would be pretty beneficial, right? Like just talking to him today, like I've known Jordan like since I was like 15 or something, right? Yeah. But I feel like I've learned a lot, like just talking to you today. So it's pretty awesome.
Flipping burgers and eating nuggets.
Oh yeah.
It's also beneficial too to have your suggestions as well on my side.
Yeah.
Because I like to go, you know, balls to the walls, right? Like if we're going to go in and I'm going to flip this house, well, I'm going to flip the house.
Yeah.
But then you guys come in like, whoa, you don't need to do all that. How about we just do this?
Yeah.
Because, you know, you could take it 30 grand less, and then this is going to get you the same income, or you're just going to spend an extra 30 grand for nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, and that's understanding the marketplace and the demographics at where you're in.
Absolutely.
You know, someone coming in from, you know, a Toronto type based thing, and I'm going to do this out here in Oshawa or Whitby or Port Perry or wherever. Mm-hmm. It's like, target audience is not the same as it is in downtown Toronto. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to have the same kind of fit and finish or feel to a project. So
yeah, you have to know, like, you know, especially from our side for the sales side, is like we have to know, like, if someone's renovating a home, exactly like Scott said, like you need to know who the buyer is for that home, or you could be doing renovations that are completely like useless almost, right? Like it's very often that we see where, you know, we'll have a listing, we'll be at an open house or something, and somebody will come in and go, oh yeah, like, yeah, the basement's great, but I'll probably just rip it out and redo it. And it's like, you know, like, I don't know, like it's just interesting sometimes. Like people are weird like that.
It is interesting because when we bought our house, we lived in our old house for 17 years, and it took us 17 years to get it to be what we want it to be.
You don't have to tell me.
And then we got it to where we wanted it to be, and we sold it. And we went on and bought another house, but it was the property. It was the outbuilding. It was the space. It was the location. So it wasn't necessarily about the kitchen, because we knew we could make the kitchen what we wanted it to be. We knew we could make the basement what we want it to be. And there were certain things that we could not get in other neighborhoods. Yeah. You can't get 7 acres, you know, in a subdivision. You can't get that stuff.
And that's why we're getting busier.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are realizing they're not going to get this if they sell for that.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to lose your 7 acres, but you're going to get the house that you want in a cookie cutter subdivision.
Yeah.
So why not make that house on your 7 acre property?
Yeah. So are you, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, but it was something we talked about in prepping this, is that, are you seeing that as real estate markets change, and not particularly this one, but as markets change, does your business fluctuate based on those real estate markets changing?
Not usually.
No?
Okay. No, not usually. People are usually too excited to worry about it, or they're up for renewal. So they already have to incur the interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, adding that little bit on really isn't doing anything.
Yeah.
Right. If you're adding $100,000 onto your $800,000 mortgage, I mean, you're already paying crazy amounts anyway.
Yeah.
So for that extra $100,000 to make it the way you want it, it doesn't really hurt us.
I was just more curious. Like, you know, we see it in the immediate here is, I'm not moving because the interest rates are higher and I don't want to. So then do you get busier because these people are now focused on making their current home what they want it to be?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And COVID helped huge with that.
Yeah.
Right. I heard a lot of guys like, oh man, I'm so slow with COVID. No one's spending any money. And I was like, what? Everyone's spending all their money.
Yeah.
They're not going on $30,000 of vacations a year.
Yeah.
They're sitting at home in their office. That was a bedroom that they, fold the kid's bed up against the wall for the 8 hours a day so they could do it. They're like, oh, I hate this place. Go make lunch in the kitchen. Oh, these cabinets suck.
Yeah.
And then they'd call us. It was crazy. I've never been that busy ever.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we excelled was during COVID.
Yeah.
Because everyone called all at the same time. And we were like, whoa, what do we do?
Yeah.
But you just kept going and you just kept job after job.
Kept crushing
it, right? Like, and that's what's it's pretty awesome in my opinion.
Kept
But like we've seen it as well, and that's kind of, we've already talked about it a little bit, but just with the interest rates being up, there's a lot of people who seem to be refinancing, or, you know, when you said when the renewal comes up, they're taking this equity and they're just staying, right? Like, so it's tricky for us too, because I've had it myself where someone will call you and be like, hey, like, I really want to move, I got to get out of this area or something, and then suddenly like they've done a new kitchen and they're staying, and you're like, oh,
that's a big stress thing too, right?
Yeah, plans changed, right?
You've moved, I've moved.
Yeah,
I've told
moving
myself
sucks.
I will never move again.
But let's be
Ever.
honest, you probably will. I don't know.
That's me.
Jordan is
I'm
very
never doing it
impulsive
again.
with his real estate purchases, but
Nope.
in a good way, I
So
think.
moving is the worst.
Oh,
And we sold our last house. We were just about to put it on the market,
Yeah.
and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, great, because I
Yeah.
already bought this house, and like,
It
yeah,
was
what do
literally
I
the
do?
timing was just like crazy.
And then everyone's like, "You're crazy paying $840 for that." Now the neighbor's selling for $1.4, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Who's crazy?"
Not crazy now.
I know, not crazy now.
but
I
see,
mean, lost on that one, but gained it back here. Right? So we're even.
and that's it, right? Like Scott and I always use the term, mostly Scott, analysis by paralysis, or paralysis by analysis,
Yeah,
right?
that's me. That's how I live by.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just like, what was I going to say now? Lost my train of thought.
No, but
But
for
paralysis
me,
analysis with what we were
no,
just
for
saying.
me, like I'll overanalyze a situation to death. Like I'll think I'll do this and I should do that, and part of it is, you know, wanting that security. You know, I want to know that I'm making the right decision so I can take in as much information as I can, as opposed to just doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Go for it and make it happen.
Yeah, so I've got my train of thought back. But what I was going to say there was just about like when you bought that house, right? Like analysis paralysis. A lot of people in that time were very fearful. We're very like, ugh, everything is scaring me, right? I got to stay in my house. So, you know, you guys were just like, who cares? Like we see the long-term potential here, where, you know, I would imagine that a lot of people who may have said to you like, oh, you spent too much for that house, like they may not be where you are today.
Look at them now.
Well, but that's the thing is there's so many people like that, and it's not even just yourself. It's like, you know, everybody in general, right? Like whenever somebody makes a big decision like that, they buy and sell, like that's a huge decision, and people will always be from the outside looking in, going, oh, why would they pay that, or why would they move there? Like, but it's like you guys are such a good example of when I said impulsive. Like, you know, Jordan and my sister Devyn, like when they've bought pretty much each of their houses, it was like a, hey man, we saw this house. Oh, we're actually here right now. Like, his last house, he literally called me and he's like, yeah, we're actually, I've actually already seen it. I'm just out front now. I already talked to the homeowner. They let me come through.
Dylan's like, what? I said, yeah, I knocked on the door. I said, sorry, I missed the open house. You might have to take a look around the outside. He's like, come inside. We'll just have a smoke in the patio.
And the next day we're putting the offer in.
Walking through, I was like, oh, I love this place. Perfect.
Yeah. But it's just like big decisions, right? Like, you know, your life clearly up until this point is like to me, it's very obvious that you don't really care less what anybody thinks. Like you couldn't care less.
I run my life backwards of every other person in the world.
Yeah.
You know, when everyone else stops on the track, I'm running through it.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone's like, no, don't do it. Boom, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
My joke was we were looking at houses prior to COVID, and then COVID hit, and my wife always joked with me. She goes, do I need a better realtor? I'm like, yeah, you probably do.
Call me.
Yeah. So I was like, anybody out there can.
Yeah.
I was convinced I was really honestly convinced for about a 6-month period. If I drove home one day, there was going to be somebody else's sign on my yard.
I didn't sign this.
Yeah. So she already
amazing.
signed the spousal consent form and said, here, there you go.
Yeah.
We're moving.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she just forged your signature there for you.
But you mentioned about moving and never moving again, and you know I've said this on this podcast and a couple of other issues. I am never moving again. Feet first is the way I'm going out of this house. Right? It's not.
I don't ever want to move again.
No,
But like
it was
Dylan
terrible.
says, it will happen.
Yeah.
Probably.
No,
And if not moving, I'm sure you'll be purchasing some type of investment.
I will call you. I will put an addition on the back. I will make this house work no matter
that's what people are doing.
No matter what's going on. I am fixing this house. I am doing it. I am going to make it exactly what I want. I'm never moving again because, as Dylan knows, my last move, I ended up kicking a barbecue down my driveway because I was so frustrated. Because
It's a good story.
It ruined my day.
He had to like lug this thing. It was like the last thing from the
Totally
day of
forgot
moving.
it.
And he's like lugging it through the backyard. Like,
Oh, that thing was, go back and listen to one of the episodes. It's actually, I lost my mind. And I had one of my neighbors across the street watched it. And I was
eat
like,
popcorn.
I was like, hi.
That's when you regret it, right? You're like, ooh, you saw that.
I'm a nice guy,
Yeah.
I swear.
Yeah. It was like, oh, there's a good thing they're moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good thing he's out of here.
Yeah, literally.
We got all the crazy out of the neighborhood.
Well, not quite, but I'm sure there's still some in there. But anyway, I feel like we're kind of getting into the old wrap it up stage. But
Yeah.
I'm curious a little bit about like DIY stuff. Like, do you ever have somebody, like, I'm sure you do, but do you have people who bring you in for a quote or an estimate and then they just like try to do it themselves and then they call you after? Or
All the time. DIY brings me the most money.
amazing, yeah.
Yeah, every single time.
So
we had this basement. My ex-husband finished it. I just went to one the other day.
Yeah.
My ex-husband finished it. Like, I want to put a bathroom in here. I can't. It's just not, and I'm not a can't guy, but I just
the way it's
cannot
done.
put one in there.
Yeah.
This room is all void. It's just a cold cellar, but you just framed it out. Why would you frame it out? Why wouldn't you frame it in? That's a 12 by 10 space.
Yeah.
You got 120 square feet of, like, what's there? Well, I don't know. So how do you throw an estimate at that?
Yeah.
Right. It's just pretty well impossible. I can give you an estimate on what I think it's going to do.
Yeah.
But now to put that bathroom in there, we have to blow this wall out. So we're losing living room, or we're losing bedroom, or we're losing hallway. Which way are we going with it?
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right? So definitely, that makes it difficult to do things like that.
So I guess with the DIY, it's more so you going in and like fixing other people's work. It's not like they take your knowledge from your quote and your estimate and then they try it, or it's more so just you going
for
in.
sure they do.
They do,
For
yeah.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like they would, and I feel like they probably very often, just like they will with us, they'll probably take your quote and your estimate and say, "Oh, this guy will do it for this much," and like, okay, well,
And it's always, that's funny. I had one this summer. It's always the older guys that are like, "Oh, back in my day, I used to do all this stuff." Right? And you're like,
did ya?
Classic. Right? As soon as I hear that, I'm like, "Oh, this will be fun." Right?
Yeah.
We're getting there like, "How come the framing price is $9,000?" I'm like, well, it's like 4 weeks of a crew on site.
Yeah.
Works
framing
out.
the whole
That's
thing.
fair.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, the materials are $15. Have you been to Home Depot?
Yeah.
Have you walked into Home Hardware?
Yeah.
A 2x4 that's twisted and bent is still $11.
Yeah.
It doesn't
crazy.
matter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
now they're $7, but then tomorrow they're $9.
Yeah.
And, like, we don't know where it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had one guy that came in, we bought 2x4s, and he's like, "This is really nice live edge wood." It
Yeah,
was
half
like,
them still have the bark on it.
well, yeah, because it's rough on the side. It's like, this thing is like, this is contoured.
Yeah.
And that's how you're buying the lumber now.
Yep.
It's not good.
It's junk.
Yeah.
It's junk. We have a lot. If we're doing a wall that has to be flush in
Yeah.
a shower, we
Yeah.
have to what's called wet shim it. This
What
means
is
we
that?
put mortar on the wall studs, and then we put a Schluter board on it, and then we level the board and let the mud dry and then screw it in.
Wow.
What?
So a lot of people don't understand that. Oh, I want subway tiles in my shower.
Yeah.
Sure, but it's an extra $8,000 to put subway tiles in.
Yeah.
Because if you have a bigger format tile, I can put a lot more mud behind the tile to make it work. I mean, obviously,
okay.
we're not doing 2 inches. If the
Yeah.
wall's out, we still have to fix it.
Yep.
But I can be out, a 1/4 inch on the wall.
Mhm.
Whereas if you're doing a subway tile, it has to be perfectly flat.
Yeah.
So you have to what's called wet shim it. And it's a huge process because you
Yeah.
got one shot.
Oh, okay.
Right? Once
gotcha.
that mortar dries,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
best make sure it was level. Because if it's not,
Yeah.
you're ripping it all out.
Yeah, I've done that. I've watched the guys, and they'll put the level across, like
Yep.
they're framing up a wall, and you've got the one. What is it? What is it?
Bowed?
Yeah, it's bowed. Anyways, they got the one that goes this way, and the one that goes that way, and you go and put drywall on this wall, and it's like it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And the screw ends up going like right through the drywall because it's trying to catch the stud behind it.
Yeah.
And it's crown. That's what I was thinking.
Crown,
The
yeah,
crown on the wood and everything. And it's like, yeah, this stuff is just, it's nowhere near straight anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to watch for it too. Like we do
Yeah.
it a lot of time. We have little tricks and, things that we do to the lumber to make it straight.
Yeah.
So if we're doing a cabinet wall like we just had to do, we
Yeah.
will put a level on it just to make sure.
Yeah.
Once it's not done, we'll cut it, kind of put a nail back in it or a screw we'll use to adjust it in and out so we can adjust that stud. And then once it's straight, then we'll just laminate it with another 2x4
Oh, okay.
just to kind of hold that so that screw never moves, right?
Yeah. Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha. So these are all the little tricks that you would get.
That's
someone-
really that's interesting. I feel like a lot of guys wouldn't be thinking like that. They would just be doing it and like,
I wouldn't think
you know,
about it.
it
I
is
mean,
what it is.
I've framed up a closet. I've framed up a bedroom in an unfinished basement, and you don't think about these things, right?
No.
You really don't. Like you think, oh, okay, I put my one up, I put my level up. This is plumb or this is straight. You don't think of it as a collection of all of them making up that room or that that closet that you're doing, or heaven forbid you're doing a bathroom where you need things to be like 100% accurate
Yeah.
and true, or a kitchen cabinet, right? Like well, our house now, I mean, our floor was out by almost 2 inches on
Yeah.
engineered floor beams, like I-beams.
Yeah.
How do you get engineered beams that are out almost 2 inches?
Poor clients. I just dealt with that same project in Newcastle there.
Yeah.
It was like a cone in the middle.
Yeah.
Because the builders, the beam wasn't flush to the other beam. So where
Yeah.
the post was, it was up.
Yeah.
4 inches. It was 4 inches out.
Yeah.
How do I work with that?
Yeah, our flooring guy put on 3/8 inch plywood over top of 3/4 inch plywood on top of, and he sanded through 3 levels of it to get that one section, get that little
It's exactly what we had to do.
out of
Sand right through it.
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
And he must have gone through, I don't know, like 7 sheets of like this 30 grit coarse, sandpaper, and it's just smoking away.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it just starts flying everywhere because he hit another screw going through it or another nail going through it. It's like, yikes.
Yeah. That's crazy. But see, that's the thing is like, I think that like, this is all just testament to why you hire a professional.
Yeah.
And why you hire somebody who, really treats it like a business and takes it seriously. Right. And it's the same thing with our industry. Like, we see it all the time. Like, just a quick phone call to some of these realtors and it's like, man, like, whew, yikes. You know what I mean? Like, so it's interesting. Like, it's like, you've really set yourself apart from your competition, I think. And it's impressive. And I think a lot of people will take some good value out of this today. A lot of good little tips in there.
Yeah. So I have a quick question before we wrap up. I always like to ask the question is the most awkward or the funniest thing that you've experienced in your career doing these renovations. So put you on the spot and kind of.
That's a good one. The funniest thing.
Yeah.
I guess it could be funniest or like craziest even, like,
I mean, I've got the cat story, right? You show a house and the cat's sitting outside, you put the cat inside, call the client and tell them, hey, we put your cat back in the house. They were outside and it was really cold. And they're like, they don't have a cat.
Yeah.
Right?
That's amazing.
I had one like last winter actually where I was showing a house and there was this, out of nowhere, there was this huge dog. Like I went to leave the house. It's like, snow everywhere. And I mean like a bear. This dog was like a bear. And it's like, I opened the door and it's poking its head in. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? Like, and I almost was going to let it in because it was like, I live here. And I call the agent and he's like, oh yeah, that dog lives down the street. Like, good thing you didn't let him in. And I'm just like, what? Like, what, he's just roaming around? Like, and then one of the neighbors tied him to a post right by the front door. So he was like stuck at the front door. So I'm like, he must live here. Like, I'll just leave him tied to the house. That's right. Awesome. But it's weird with pets sometimes.
Yeah.
But,
I'm not too sure I have anything good and funny like that. That's
no.
That's
you haven't had anybody frame themselves into a room and then couldn't get out or something like that, or
no, it's just like people put nails through their hands and
okay, that's not
any just like bizarre takes from sellers or like bold like random claims that they believe something that you're like like
we have a lot of those too. I think the main thing is the people that know more than me.
Oh yeah.
Why are you hiring me then?
Yeah.
If you know how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of people that think general contracting is easy.
Yeah.
So they try it themselves.
Oh yeah.
Then they sit here and tell me that it's not easy. It sucks.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's a lot more of those people that respect us afterwards.
Yeah.
Because they're like, wow, you do a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've always looked at it and said, you know what? When I was younger, it was about saving money.
Yep.
Right. And that was you learn very quickly that you don't save any money at all.
The older you get, you realize time is money.
Right.
Spend the money
for a lot of people. And for me as well. I mean, if I can't afford to do the project, I won't do the project.
Exactly.
Right. Just because I can do it myself and I can lay interlock brick. Yeah, I can do it. I did it with landscaping.
Do you want to?
No.
Exactly.
No, I don't, because we did a couple before we moved from our old place. And I mean, I used to do it as a kid working in the landscaping industry. Probably much the same. You guys worked at McDonald's. I worked at a landscaping company. So you learn how to do it. You learn how to make the base.
But what size base? Is it a 4 inch, a 6 inch, or an 8 inch?
Yeah, so we went with the
and what stone are you using?
80 mil pavers with the 3/4 crush and then limestone and stone dust. That's what we did, and we went about 12 inches deep.
So like now they use HPB.
Yeah,
which is like a drainage rock, right?
Right, which is much better.
So, exactly. But how do you find out that way? People do it themselves, and they call. They're like, "Oh, my interlock's heaving."
Yeah.
Who did it? Why did?
Yeah. So we did a couple, but do I want to do it again?
No.
You're digging 12 inches deep in the middle of July. And I'm like, and they're digging it by hand. I don't have any fancy machinery. Yeah. I don't have a skid steer or a dingo or whatever they're called. And in the backyard, digging a 10 by 12 hole, 12 inches deep.
Yeah.
You have any idea how much soil that is? You
terrible.
Do, but
most people don't.
I didn't.
Yeah. And I remember just like, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, where do you put it all? Now I've got all this dirt.
Yeah. What do you do with it? Spread it out?
Well, I've got nowhere to put it. I know what I'm going to do. Put it in my wife's pickup truck.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's not gonna
What do I do?
work.
And you can rent a bin. It's $800. You're like,
Yeah.
oh.
Right. So you can do it.
But it's
But
the
the
things like that
question
you don't
is,
think about, right?
should you do it?
Yeah. Well, there's no can'ts, right?
Right.
Can't's not a real word. It's not in the dictionary. It's
Right.
not a thing.
Yeah.
So you can do anything you want.
Right.
But how should you do it?
Yeah.
There's a problem, right?
Exactly.
How do you go about it? Anything can be done. Do you hire someone or do you not?
Yeah.
Right. I did roofing in college
Yeah.
to make some money in the summertime. So I
Yeah.
did my first house roof.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah.
But
I
I
remember
saved $1,500. So I was all happy, proud of myself, right? Like,
Yeah.
I saved $1,500.
Yeah.
Then I moved to the second house and I got a price and it was like $5,600. And I was like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I can buy the shingles for $1,400. I'll do it myself.
Yeah. No.
That was the last time I'll ever do a roof.
Yeah, I remember
Right.
that.
I could have just spent $4,000 or whatever it was
Yeah.
and sat inside.
Yeah.
And not had to worry about anything.
and done anything but sit up on
Here I
top of a
am
roof
by
and-
myself, slugging the shingles,
Yeah.
ripping the shingles off, all in a day and a half.
Yeah.
Because the rain's coming eventually,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Nothing like getting the house wet.
but like literally, that's what he did. Like basically by himself, like done and dusted.
And actually, those guys that I work for are roofers today.
Oh yeah.
So kinda funny how that works. They stayed around, so that's good.
Well, they're always a pretty reputable company, right? I always remember that. So
Yeah.
you got to keep aligned with those people, right?
That's the other thing too. You got a lot of those companies that are coming in shipping these Chinese products in a
Yeah.
different bag, right? So that's a big
Yeah.
thing with shingles right now. I found out there a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago is they're bringing in these Chinese shingles from
Yeah.
China off the boat, but wrapping them in a Canadian brand's packaging.
Oh, you're
A
allowed to
lot
do
of
that?
people don't know that. Well, you're obviously not allowed to do that at all, but that's what they're doing.
Wow.
Because you have these guys come in, and that's what, when I talked to Chris from Finley Roofing, that's what I was talking to him about. And he says, well, if I give a price for $10,000, these guys are coming in at $4,000. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's because they're getting the shingles for $87 from China.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
rewrapping all the bags
Oh,
It's crazy.
to
That's
be
nice.
a premium shingle.
that's nice.
And for something
Yeah.
that's so like serious.
And how do you know?
You know?
Yeah.
Little old Betty down the road, she doesn't know. She sees $10,000, she sees $4,000. She's like, beat it. I'm
Yeah.
going with the $4,000.
Yeah.
And then a roof leaks, so she calls, Jimmy,
Yeah.
and
They're gone.
Jimmy's phone number is disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the roof is one of those things where you don't
It's
mess
such
around
a
with
serious component.
I always say that my biggest advice to everyone hiring a contractor is if they show up and a name is on the vehicle, they're trustworthy.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, sure, that's false for some people. There's a lot of successful people that don't want to advertise their name on their truck, or maybe they did, and then now
Yeah.
they're like, I don't want to be watched anymore, so they have a separate vehicle.
Yeah.
That's a whole different story. But
Yeah.
when you're getting all these quotes, you can usually, if myself and another buddy of mine show up 2 stickered vehicles, we will definitely be in and around the same price.
Yeah.
But then you'll get, the guy show up in his GMC Sierra.
the white one.
Nobody knows. Yeah,
Rusted.
the white one,
Yeah, the
brand
white
new
one.
white one. You're like, oh, yeah, I see.
Oh,
that's
they're
like,
never
yeah.
brand new.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And his price is
Yeah.
$20,000 less.
Yeah.
Well, why?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can find me anywhere. I get
Yeah.
all the time. Hey, do you live off of Todden? Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have all your vehicles wrapped, right?
Yeah, they're all fully wrapped.
Yeah.
So that shows trust right there.
Yeah.
I say people all the time, they're like, oh, I'm not too sure about the contractor. I said, do you think I'd be driving that truck around with my name all over it
Yeah.
if I couldn't be trusted?
Yeah.
You could find me anywhere. I can't hide. Where am I going to hide?
Yeah.
I was in Apsley in the summertime.
Mhm.
Apsley. We're 2 hours from home.
Yeah.
Some guy Instagram messages me, hey, man, what are you doing at the Apsley General Store? I was like,
Uh-oh.
moly.
Getting-
I
Who's
can't
watching
even,
right
I can't
now?
even get the kids a popsicle. I'm getting bugged on Instagram. So you stand out. You're being watched. There's a lot of a lot of people think you're not being watched. You are absolutely
Oh,
being
yeah.
watched every single day.
Well, and it's true
Yeah.
because like I used to have my car wrapped, I think even before you did, and it's the same exactly. Like you have to just accept that if you're doing that, like people are going to know where you are. Like you
Yeah.
have to kind of maybe always be somewhat presentable. Like that's kind of how I felt sometimes because being in real estate, like I don't want to be wearing pajama pants to go somewhere. It just kind of forces you to kind of hold yourself to a bit of a higher standard. I think, right?
You're running a business.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You're running a business. You are in business to help people. You're in business to make money.
24 hours a day, 7
Yeah.
days a week.
Exactly. And if that's not your mindset, and that was something that I got right from the moment we sat down
Mhm.
today, you mean business.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's there's like I said, I'll repeat it again. There's an intensity there to get things done, to do it the right way. And you pick up on that with the confidence that you have. We would love to have you back to
Yeah,
talk
definitely.
about, more specific topics. And I'd wondered if you would, grace us with your
Absolutely.
time
Yeah, I'd love to
in
come back.
the
It was
future.
good.
And
It was a good time.
yeah, and just maybe talk about some of the things that would be specific.
There's lots of stuff, because I think today we focused a lot on kind of like business development almost, and like kind of your story of getting to where you are, which I think is really like a lot of people, a lot of young people, a lot of entrepreneurs will take a lot from that, because these are very like translatable things, right? Like almost everything that you said, like we can implement it in our own fashion in our own business, right?
Yeah.
So I think there'll probably be a lot of contractors listening to this too, and certain things like those Schluter board tricks you're talking about there, like hey, you might have helped some people out. Like I don't know.
I'm thinking I know that trick. I'm never trying it though.
Well, remember, you have one shot.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're gonna
it's
do
like
so
that
well.
miter thing we talked about before. 2 seconds and set. Nope, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm out.
you're like, see you later.
Absolutely.
But the one thing that resonates before we wrap up here with me was that you mentioned about that eavesdrop thing. That was such a small little event that you took the time to do it. And I think we could talk about probably 10 of those things and help people, prevent that sort of thing from happening.
I can guarantee you everyone listening to this podcast is going to be cleaning their eavesdrops this year.
I am.
Yeah.
So I'm going home to clean them right now.
Right.
I have 3 leaf blowers. I'm going to have one in each hand. I'm going to clean them out. You're going to be able to eat out of those.
Exactly. And it's just simple things like that too, right?
Yeah. So no, we really appreciate your time. We know your time is really valuable.
Yeah. We had this
I've
one on
learned
the
a lot
calendar for a few weeks, so we had to lock them up,
Yeah. So I've learned a lot. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dylan, to wrap this up and take us out of
I just
here.
want to thank you again for joining. It was a good time. I know that obviously we're family, but I mean, I think we treated this as if we're not just clearly you're not just my brother-in-law. Like you're clearly a business professional. So I hope that I know that everybody can see that. I can see Scott. He said it a few times. The intensity, he's seen a lot out of it. So we just want to thank you for being here. I think I had a great time. It seems like we all did. So
I'll be reaching out and giving you a call. So how do people reach out to you? Where's the best place to reach you?
You can get our number on the socials.
Okay.
Our number is just 905-441-5666.
And the name of the company is?
The Rosa Construction.
Okay, and you're based out of Durham or
Yeah, we're out of Clarington, we work wherever there's work, we help out.
Okay,
so
all right. So we encourage
if somebody wants the pros, that's where
encourage people to go and check out on the social medias, Rosa Contracting and
Rosa Construction.
Construction. Sorry, my bad. Thank you for the correction.
That's all right. All you have to do is read it.
I know. I tried reading it. I'm such an idiot sometimes.
It happens. It happens. Remember earlier you were calling me Jordan, and
all right. It only took an hour and 17 minutes for you to start hacking on me.
That's pretty good. I think we got through a lot there. So
no, thanks for your time.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me out. It was a good time.
Appreciate it. We'll wrap her up there.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, we appreciate all the feedback, all the 5-star reviews you've been getting on Spotify and Apple. So if you enjoy this podcast, we encourage you to share it with somebody. And if you hear something in it that you think someone can take value from Jordan's words today, definitely share it with them. And we just want to thank everyone again for listening. So
thank you.
Talk to you soon.